again. So, we have a really interesting night planned. There's a few subjects I wanted to talk about that are kind of based on some feedback I've been getting. I want to thank everybody that reached out to me and made suggestions, and it really means a lot. Not only does it let me know that people are paying attention and what I'm doing is working, but that there is an environment here of engagement, and that's what I really want to put out there, is that the goal is to build a community. And I don't mean that in the cliche sense, but the fact that if we all recognize the opportunity that we have here with this art to together find the truth, and we're going to talk about that tonight, then it becomes a very different experience. Lauren, how's it going? Thanks for popping in. And Answers in the Truth is going to be basically along those lines. It's kind of a continuation of something I've been speaking about now in a couple of streams. And I think I just want to kind of tie the bow on the box and really get to the heart of what I'm trying to mention there. And so we'll go through a couple of specific things, have some cards too that are going to kind of make sense as to what I'm trying to do. Is, since we're talking about the idea of this, these multiple layers of the story, right? The story of the creation of the universe, the story of your individual life as your current personality, your existence as a whole from beginning to end, and all your different incarnations, and all these things are represented by that same story. So I figured, why not use that same idea when talking about this, the answers and the truth, right? Personal messages and daily messages we're going to go through as well. Again, I usually post 4 readings every day. They're on the channel now for the 16th. And personal message for everybody here. And I've made some, Rob, I'm glad you popped in. I'll make sure that you're early on the list this time. I'm making some changes to the website as we progress, and as I begin to get feedback. I'm trying to do a couple things that are very specific with the channel here, and I feel like it's important that I that I do what I can to maintain the integrity of that as we move forward. And so the idea here is to, as the channel progresses, this will become more clear. But the goal here is to maintain the integrity of the art of tarot, and there's a couple of ways to do that. The first way is to, whenever I'm mentioning any kind of technique or information or history or practical experience, it's going to come from a place that is empirical. I've done the work. I didn't just read the book, but I applied it. I used it in my life. I've shared it with others, and it's sort of passed the test of time, right? Even some things that I found effective, I don't necessarily share, because I feel like it's not something you want to kind of plant into somebody. Rather, let them come to that conclusion on their own, again, with the intent of maintaining the integrity of the art, right? And the other way that we can do that is through our actions, through the way that I read the cards, through the way that I present the information that is given to me, and that I personally maintain that integrity through all of my readings. And I've done that as much as possible throughout my work. If you take it seriously and you allow it to be what it can be, it's a holy experience. It transcends spirituality, because it becomes the connection it's the moment of creation. It's that universal consciousness before it broke up into little pieces called you and I, right? And so spirit is a product of that. We are before that, right? So and today's Meet the Deacons is going to be a lot of fun. I'm doing something a little different than usual. I've been focusing a lot on some of the specifics of the wheel, as a diagram, right, which is really just a spreadsheet, and a lot of that information is available in Crowley's 777, Lon Milo DuQuette's Understanding of the Thoth Tarot, and several others. A lot of the old esoteric and hermetic tracts, and obviously the source of this information, at least publicly, the Sefer Yetzirah, which is an old Hebrew tract where we get this from. But now what I'm doing today is a little different, is the cheat sheets. And what this is we're looking at different ways that we can, as readers and as people who want to study this art, to reference information quickly, but in a way that helps the intuitive process. Because the goal here always, as you know, when you're reading, is the union of the intellectual part of us and the intuitive part, right? And so it's not just about the intellectual part. It's not just about the times table, right? So we can reference it quickly and get the answer. It's more about, at the same time, allowing there to be a flow of intuitive energy that utilizes that information. And so we're going to talk about several different ways that we do that. And one of the ways is what I call the cheat sheet decks. They're really great. There's several of them. There's one in particular that I've used on the channel here several times. And whether you're a beginner to the art or you're a master, these decks are a great way to pack that information in and to do exactly that. It's an artistic representation of this wheel that we talk about. And so that's going to be a great discussion. And I encourage anybody that is interested in the practical usage, the operative form of tarot, to stick around for that. The Spotlight deck is Tarot of Ceremonial Magick, which, spoiler, is part of the cheat sheets. And this deck is one that it's kind of a newer version, and that'll be more clear when we talk about that. But there's a link in the description to the individual who created the deck, as well as the people that are responsible for its production and sale, and that's the official link. Now that link, I don't earn any commissions or any affiliate anything. I'm not affiliated with the creator or the store at all. I just happen to be a big fan of the deck and feel that it should get some attention. However, there's some other links in the description as well to the decks that I'll be showing tonight with respect to the topic. And those are affiliate links to Amazon. And so if you do want to support the channel and you are interested in one of those decks, feel free to use that link. It just helps me out. It's a tiny little commission, but it helps. Okay, and that said, today's Beautiful Soul is also a great little sort of perspective on not only the tarot, but life and our experience. I made the decision to, rather than focusing on local events or global events, which typically were very negative, that I would change it up. And I've been doing the segment for Beautiful Soul now. I think this is the third or fourth one, where I find an individual that is walking their talk and is related to the tarot community in some way. And today's is actually kind of interesting, and I think you're going to maybe be a bit surprised. There's a little bit of art, there's a little bit of nature, and there's no people. So that's going to be fun. And of course, random acts of wisdom. Anybody that pops in on the stream tonight, I'm going to pull a random card just for the heck of it, outside of the readings and anything else, and just kind of have some fun. So in the meantime, let us begin. So first of all, Lauren, thank you for popping in. Rob, thank you. Let's get your names on the list right away. Okay. And so, Rob, I really appreciate your patience. It's as time allows, as the list builds and so forth. And so, I unfortunately typically can't get to everyone in a stream as much as I'd like to. But Tavon, how's it going? Thanks for popping in. I appreciate it. If you'd like to jump on the list, I'll add your name. Okay. Let's make sure that that's going to fit properly. Okay, great. And guys are on the list. Okay. And there's a couple things I wanted to discuss really quickly. As far as changes to the website, there's a few things that I thought that would be interesting. And the first thing is that the types of readings that I'm doing, I kind of recognize, again, with the intent of the integrity of this art and what I'm trying to do with this channel, is in every way to maintain the proper method, the proper intention, and the proper mindset, and so forth, right? And now that also includes, if I'm going to be honest with that and with myself, then I need to understand that what I'm trying to do here is to introduce you to yourself. What I'm trying to do here is to quiet the noise so that you can hear the voice of the soul trying to speak to you, to assist you in soul talk. And so if somebody comes with a question, and I feel like it's a relevant one and something that you need to know, I will be happy to answer that question. What I'm speaking about now are the free readings. Otherwise, if I feel like your question is one that is on the surface, I'm going to do the reading that I feel is necessary, and I'm going to do the spread that I feel is necessary. Okay, so you'll see here, free readings, I pick the subject and the spread. Now, for as little as $1, you can have your question answered, okay? And then that way, I will honor the fact that you're willing to donate for that service, and I'm willing to provide it, okay? So you can, and obviously with the same integrity that I do any other reading, right? And something special I decided to do, and this is based on feedback from a couple of people, and I thought it was a good idea, and so I'm going to implement it. And that's if you gift a reading, you pay half. So essentially, if you buy a $10 reading, a full spread like a Celtic cross as an example, or the astrology houses is another example of a full spread, you have the opportunity to use that and give it to somebody else in the chat. And if you do that, it'll only be $5. And so then the other person would be the one to receive the reading, okay? And again, that's really based on a couple of things. First of all, you know, the time it takes to do a full spread, I feel like, is necessary to receive compensation. However, I feel like that the fact that the target is random and is a gift adds an extra energy to that reading. And I feel like that from that perspective, it follows along with what I'm trying to do with the channel, which is to maintain the work. And the goal here is to literally evolve people one at a time by showing you yourself through my readings, by telling you what you need to hear instead of what you think you want to. And so that's just, you know, one way that we can maybe share the energy, you know, give an answer to somebody who wasn't in the position to buy a reading for themselves but needs to hear something. And so I think that we can have a lot of fun with that, right? And, you know, full disclosure, I'm poor, but, you know, I feel like, and I have been wealthy in my life, and I've been poor in my life, and I've been all these things, but I feel like when we are in the position of extra, how we choose to share that is important. And this is one opportunity of a way that we can do that, where there's some actual benefit, right? There's some good that can come from that. And so that said, those are basically the rule changes for the readings. Free readings are, it's my discretion what I read about, and it's my discretion what spread. Otherwise, you can, you know, obviously donate for a reading. You will jump the line, and I'll ask or answer any question that you'd like that's, you know, relevant to whatever's on your mind at that point. Okay. So that said, the first thing I wanted to talk about kind of ties in exactly to what I'm mentioning here, and it comes to having this opportunity with this art, with this oracle, that I feel like we shouldn't waste, and that's why I feel like it's time to sort of maybe be a little more picky about the kinds of readings that I do, but not the individual I do them for. Like, again, if you participate in my stream, as far as I'm concerned, you are privy to a reading, a message, whether that's a free message and you're still going to hear what you need, or you know, something a little more. And so, on that note, though, I want to discuss and kind of tie up a subject I've been speaking to the past couple streams, which is this relationship between the reader and the seeker. And now, what I wanted to talk about tonight is the relationship of the seeker to the cards, to the question, to this whole process. Forget about the reader specifically, forget about the tarot specifically. Your approach to this process. And this is for everyone in the room, for everyone that's watching this stream in the future, or anybody you decide to share this information with that is kind of in the community, right? There are many ways that you can approach the tarot. And, you know, one of the analogies that I like to use is very similar to the initiation process of secret societies. Anybody who pays their dues can walk in the door and receive their lies for free, openly, right? And so one of the examples of that is religion, Freemasonry, as an example. Full disclosure, I was a Freemason. I'm not active any longer, but I did complete the initiatory process of Master Mason. That said, there's several layers of the initiatory process, and even within self-initiation, which is really what we're talking about, is self-initiation today. You pay your dues, you walk in the door, you get the lies for free, spoken openly, and that's represented here by the Hierophants. And now, are the lies that you're told useful? They are. For instance, the meaning of tarot cards, or, you know, the basic language of astrology and the meanings of the sun signs and so forth, right? Yes, it is useful. It becomes a vocabulary. It adjusts our thinking to be able to see the world in metaphor, to be able to make connections between things, and so it is useful. And some of the information that you'll learn can even be useful for planting that seed in others. You know, we play with our toys, and so when you join these types of things and you learn this kind of information, you want to use it, and then you use it on your friends, and you introduce them to the tarot, or to numerology, or to crystals, or to whatever caught your spirit at the moment. But the organization freely shares the sort of outward public little white book version of the information, right? But unbeknownst to most, although nowadays it's a little more obvious due to the internet and other means, there's an inner order. And if you're aware, or you find yourself becoming aware of that order, you'll find that it's not the same. It's not available to everyone. You can't just pay your dues and walk in and receive your lies freely. Instead, it's only available to those with the ears to hear, and you receive the truth in secret. And this is a second layer of this information, right? So now you learn some different meanings of the tarot cards, and you have a different understanding of the interplay of these archetypes and how they reflect our lives, our creation, our journey. So those with the ears to hear are able to learn the password, so to speak, and then in doing so receive the keys to the inner order, right? This inner body of knowledge. And again, we're talking about as well the self-initiation process. We are all have the ability to do this alone and don't require outside influence like an organization or basically a body that shares knowledge with the intent of propagating its agenda. All organizations have an agenda, right? But so this inner body, which I have represented here by the High Priestess, is an opportunity for all of us, but only is really going to be achieved by some. But I'm willing to take that journey with you. And if we do so, this is the space where I work. if you come here for a reading, this is what you're going to get. Now, if you really want to go to the surface, then that's fine. And again, I've made available the opportunity to do that for as little as $1. And then we can stay in that space of, here's the message of what you want to hear, or what you're looking for specifically, or what you think, what your mind is looking for, what your body wants. But we're talking about soul talk, and that's can only happen in this middle space. And then we have here represented in the Hermit something very special. Even people inside of that inner circle don't know that perhaps that there's another group, another body of knowledge that's even more unique, more rare, more exclusive. If the Hierophant represents the outer order, which is the lies told openly and for free, and the inner order of the High Priestess is the truth and secret, then what we have in this very special place that even those who know it exists can't find, even those who are members can't initiate you, they can't grant you access, they can't invite you. It is accessible to anyone. It's even accessible to, well, we'll get there, but it's even accessible to people who aren't aware that they're already there. And so if you look at this progression here, what we're actually referring to is how you approach the tarot, how you approach the process of the reading. And now what I'm asking you to do is nothing short of holy, nothing short of an act of reverence to our creation. Because the opportunity that we have here, if you join me in this middle space, is an actual connection, an actual union, a real marriage for a brief period of time during that reading where something new can be created. And the way that we do that is that I profess, I guarantee that I will show up with my wand only, which is the spirit. My mind will be left out of the circumstance. I promise that my work is to get out of my own way and come from a place of pure will with the intent of finding the truth. That is my will. And that is here represented in the wand. And I will be that wand. And all I'm asking is that you show up and you be the cup. And what do we see here? The cup is a vessel with the intent of receiving something. It also represents the heart. If the wand is fire and the cup water, this union creates something very special. And another way that we can look at this union is what's actually occurring here. This is the card of the alchemical marriage, and you are coming to the guide with an empty cup. I am coming to the seeker with an empty cup as well. Your will is to have your cup filled with the truth. My will is to have the cup filled with your truth. Now, this can only happen if we are both in the same place, and that you show up with your cup and you are in a state of reception. Not, this is what I want to hear, not, this is my question, not, suffering the lust of result, but rather open to having the cup filled. And what we see also in the image, which is quite beautiful, is the dove dropping the the disc, the layman. What we're looking at here, the actual act is communion, but more specifically what this is communion with your higher self delivering into the heart its will. And its will is to hear this truth and to complete this union between you and I for this time, so that we can create a new intelligence. Remember, I said I'm going to show up to this circumstance without my mind. I'm coming in strictly with the wand. And I'm asking you to come in strictly with your cups. Don't bring your brain. Don't bring your desire. Bring your heart open to be filled. And when we do that correctly, and I promise you I'm going to come there with the intent to do that, and I hope that you will too, we create a new sword, which is a combined mind of you and your spirit, you and your higher self. And this new mind, this new intelligence, gives birth to the pentacle. And what is the pentacle? It's the thing we're actually trying to craft. Because if you recall, what we're talking about here is entering the inner sanctum. The outer order, you can get that anywhere. You don't need me for that. You can actually use an app. The inner order, it doesn't hurt to have a friend that's been around to show you. And I will take you through that process. You need to be invited into the inner order. It's not for everyone. You need the ears to hear, and you need the invitation. Well, you're invited. So walk with me. And the goal is for, through the union, create this pentacle together. And what is that thing that we're creating? The key to the inner sanctum. Selfishly, I need your help, because together is the only way that we can get there. And we can. And we will. I promise you that I will show up. And all I'm asking is for you to do the same thing. And when we do this, something very special happens. We talked about the fact that the inner sanctum is accessible even to people who are not members of the order. And why is that? There's something very beautiful in magic, in wisdom, and that is that sometimes people can naturally come to the truth without knowing how or why they did, without training, without experience. They intuitively connect with that truth, and they speak it. And when they speak it, in the presence of those who are in that inner sanctum, they are immediately welcomed in. And my goal in this process is so that you and I can, together through this union, elicit this response in you. Some things cannot be taught. No matter how hard I try, I can't teach you. However, it can be learned. And it can be elicited through experience. And if you're able to, and through this work, make that connection, what we can do is to create the actual pentacle, the true goal of the work, which is you perfected. Now, I want to be clear. The goal here is not to take you as you are now and create this and mold you into this, because that's impossible. Sorry. Rather, is to wake you up to the fact that you are already this, just covered up with things that don't belong. And so we shed our things we don't need, things that we carry, things that are not actually part of us, that we agreed upon when somebody said it. And we let go of them. And we become the fool. And in that moment, we become ourselves. And so this is the process of me attempting with full heart, with full love, to introduce you to yourself. And all I ask is that you take the journey with me. Okay? And so that's the answers and the truth. And now the title is important. and this will wrap it up and we'll get to readings here in a moment. Answers are lies. The truth is undeniable. And you'll know it because it rings. It rings in your heart, it rings in your soul, it rings in your mind, and all three ringing make a chord that's undeniable. It vibrates your whole being. Answers are just that. There are wrong answers. I don't know what you guys got on the SAT, but I didn't score perfect, and the ones that do are very rare, and I wonder how many of those were accidental. But that said, join me. So, let's get the list updated here. It looks like a couple of people popped in the room. Kay, hello, thank you for coming in. I appreciate you stopping. If you'd like to be popped on the list, let me know. I'm going to be starting readings here in just a moment. Excuse me. And I want to say to anybody who's still here, if you stayed and listened, I really appreciate that. It means a lot. You know, I do plan on eventually taking a lot of this, the beginnings of my streams and putting them as separate videos as sort of like a kind of sapphires of wisdom, you know, the little gems amongst the garden of pomegranates. So that said, let's jump to the some readings. Let's throw some cards. Now, first of all, just so I know, because I just talked everyone's head off for a half an hour, if you're still here, give me a thumbs up, give me a hey. We'll make sure that the list is updated in an appropriate place, and then we'll get going with some fun. I'm going to throw some random cards. We're going to jump to the book. And the next thing we're going to be doing is looking at a bunch of really cool tarot decks. These are all the Hermetic decks that are the cheat sheet decks that cover the information just straight up on the card. The Deacons are there. You've got Goetic stuff going on. You've got the Enochian going on, right? And so what we have here is a big batch of decks that I have found are a very good method of not having to reference a chart, not having to reference a book. It's all packed in the deck, and so when you're in that flow and you want to stay there, the appropriate deck with the right information, the right cheat sheet can be invaluable. And so that's going to be a lot of fun too. Make sure you stick around for that, but we'll do some readings first. And then we're going to take a look at the Sun Sign book, which is a lot of fun too. Loanna, how you doing? Oh my gosh, you want to be on the list? I'm honored. Thank you. And Kay, if you want to be on the list, let me know. So let's see here. So far then, let me put down after Taylor, Kay, if you're still here, and then Luana. Okay, let me save that. I might have to line this stuff up here a little bit. Let's see. No, it all fit. Great, okay. Alrighty, so I'm not sure who caught the beginning of the stream where I talked about basically how I'm going to be doing readings from now on. But essentially, and it's kind of listed down here, free readings. I pick the subject and the spread. Otherwise, if, you know, your question, your spread, and this is something very special based on feedback, and I thought it was a great idea. If anyone would like to gift a reading, it's half price. So if you want to buy a reading for somebody else that's in the chat here, or somebody that you know that'll call in or come into the chat, it'll be half price, okay? What else do we have here? I guess that's it. Okay, great. So let's pop the list up. And first is Lauren. If you're still here, say hey. And the deck we're going to be using in the interim is the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic to do readings tonight. If you purchase a reading, you can choose the deck. I do have a relatively decent list. It's not complete, obviously. There's a few that are kind of popular that are missing. And I do plan on correcting that. But these are just decks that I haven't had experience with, and so I didn't put them on the list. Okay, so if you do purchase a reading, you can choose the deck from the list. But tonight, otherwise, we're going to be using the Spotlight, which is the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic, Milo, DuQuette. And it is based on the Golden Dawn, Rosicrucian, Hermetic Esoteric system. And really pulls a lot from Thoth, since Crowley kind of corrected some of the things that were wrong. He kind of polished it. Numerically, he polished the positions of the planets and so on. So this is a corrected version as well. Okay. And so, Lauren, hey, great. So is there anything in particular that you want to look at? Otherwise, discretion will decide what we're going to read on. And first, let's pull you a random card. Tonight's random deck is the Deviant Moon. Okay. Random Act of Wisdom. Okay, this is for Lauren. 14. Temperance. Okay, so Temperance. Temperance is... I'm actually very familiar with this card. It's my birth card. This is the sign of Sagittarius, right? Also called Art in the Thoth system. And it refers to the alchemical work, right? It's kind of like the card that had popped up before, the Two of Cups, where the two people are offering each other the cups. What Temperance is now one of them took that and is doing the work, right? So this is that. Now, it also refers to the idea of... some people think it's to forego your desire. It's kind of like not drinking, not smoking, eating right, and being, doing your prayers on time. And that's kind of a misunderstanding. The real idea of temperance is the idea of, through balance, being able to maintain that back and forth. It's actually the opposite of reducing your pleasures or your desires. It's the idea of giving in completely, but not identifying. Meaning that when you're going to take the sip of coffee, enjoy every moment of that sip. And then when it's over, let it go, and you're not identifying with it, right? So you're not missing the moment. Getting over my... Okay, yeah, that's one of those, huh? That's a tough subject. And yes, we can absolutely read on that. Let's see here. I'm sure it came through, but let's take a look. Which method did you use? Doesn't matter. We'll figure it out later. But I didn't get a notification yet. But yeah, we'll figure it out. So that said, do you have a preference of deck? If you had a preference of deck, then let me know. Otherwise, I'll pick. And also, if you can throw your birthday, you don't have to put the year. I forgot. I'm sorry. Your month and day, so I can grab your birth card. Unless you remember your birth card. Awesome. Cool. Okay. So I'm gonna do that intuitively. Give me a second. I actually need to plug my phone in. Isn't working well either. Okay, Two of Swords. Oh, that's right. Okay. Sorry about that. Alrighty. So, first we got to decide which deck we're going to use. And we're talking about an X. But not really. That's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about getting over the ex. Slightly different circumstance. So that's easy. You just have a rebound relationship, and you're all set. Just go to your favorite bookstore and pick some poor bastard that's gonna suffer all of your regrets. No, I kid. Isn't that what we all want to do, though? Isn't that what we want to do? Like, all of us want to just say, all right, I just want to go have some, useless relationship so that I can feel fulfilled, or I can feel validated, or whatever the case may be. There's always the option, too, of just completely, giving up entirely on love and love the world. That's what I've done. We'll see if that works. How long has it been since I've made that decision? It's been almost 2 years, I guess. I don't know, something like that. That's good. All right, great. So, one of those, right? Okay, yeah. Well, one way to guarantee that he doesn't come back is go lesbian. So don't forget that option always exists. All kidding aside, I want to center. But typically before paid readings, I just want to take a minute and kind of just get my head in a clear place. Heat up my coffee, because I don't rush, as you guys know, and I want to make sure that I'm in the right place. And you know what? I'm really, really grateful, because this is the first time that Lauren has come on the channel here and talked about doing a reading, and she didn't say, "Oh my God, I'm so nervous." Oh, there you go. Cool. All right. Well, then just like that. Wait a minute. Just to be clear, so you're bi, which means essentially that for some reason you haven't figured out that men suck. Like, what more evidence do you need? Room is there? Am I wrong? But yeah, so I need about like 2 minutes, all right, and I'll be right back, and we'll continue with the reading. In the meantime, I'm going to pop up, just for the heck of it, the talk I'm going to be doing later for our beautiful soul. Okay, while I'm preparing, so I will be right back, and I'll see you guys in a couple minutes. Okay, and otherwise, enjoy this beautiful purple flower. And I will return post-haste. the frame of mind is important. So I want to make sure that I'm in the right place for that. And we're doing a love reading. And there's a special kind of energy there. And because, you know, and it's not really necessarily a love reading. It's more a, what is the state of the connection, right? What is the state of where you are and where they are? I'm just going to move the list. Wow. Yeah. Well, okay. We're doing Lauren right now. And then Sarav, then Tavon. So you're next after next. And if you want, like, I won't be insulted if you pop out. Here's the rule for everybody. If I call on you and you're not here, I just move your name to the back. You're not off the list. So if you happen to pop to another stream or whatever the case, I get it. And so you'll still be on the list. And we'll go from there. So don't sweat it. If you're not here when I call on you. Yeah, well, you know, that's part of the work here that we're trying to do, right? And I mentioned it before. The goal here is to introduce you to yourself. And when you do, you, the real, would never tolerate that behavior. Would never tolerate that from the perspective of kind of where you are, right? And so let's just set up your stuff here. Two of Swords. And now your major, let's take a look at that real quick. There's a couple things that we can learn from this, right? You know, so it's never a bad idea to kind of look at all the influences. You know, we have the moon in Libra, and the moon is something that is kind of like always present in your energy. And obviously you have the idea of Libra, but also moon in Libra is a slightly different circumstance, because oftentimes, and this is what's getting you in trouble here, the moon, if you recall, it occult or hidden. And another way to look at that is the idea of like that you don't share, you keep it to yourself. And so, you know, Libras aren't really good with injustice. Like, they'll see a wrong, especially if it's happening to them. But for some reason, in your case, and this is kind of intrinsic to your energy, which is okay, because once we know it, we can work around it, is this idea of not voicing that. Like, hey, man, that wasn't okay what you just did to me. That's what you're saying in your head, but in your heart, but you're not speaking it, right? Like, it gets caught and it doesn't come out of the, you know? So, we'll talk about that. And now let's get your card up. And the reason I put up the Rider-Waite is this is what everybody's familiar with. This or the Thoth deck. This Ten of Pentacle that's up at the top is the period of time that we're in right now. This is the period that we're all facing. And it's the end. This is the last card of the tarot, literally. It's also the last card of the year, because we're entering fall, right? This is the end of spring, and we're entering the fall period. The autumnal equinox is on the 22nd. So, now that said, let's get your major up, which is incidentally the Hermit, because we're in Virgo. And so let me just type that in real quick, just so we're all in the same place. All right, very good. Okay. Ten of Pentacle, yep. All right, we're all set. That's all correct. Great. Now, make sure that this is in the right spot, and we should be good. Okay, very good. Yeah. All right, so let's begin. I'm not 100% sure where I'm going to go with the deck yet, so I'm going to light some incense and a candle and think about it. I don't know if I'm feeling this one for this. might do Abyss combined with Radiant Sun. That's what we're doing. Okay, so, and you know, it's a very, very cool technique to mix tarot with a proper oracle. The one I'm using is astrological in nature, and what it does is it combines the planet and signs, and it's really good for adding information to a tarot deck when you want to get to sort of karmic kind of level stuff. Anything metaphysical. So, in the meantime, I'm going to shuffle. And the candle I'm going to be lighting is a bamboo. Very, very kind of not too sweet. But it's not a bold natural. It's kind of a calm smell. It's kind of like a dull basil. And it's made here locally, and so it's not shipped from some wacky place with crazy chemicals for the scent and stuff. And so there's a good energy here, and you can just know that I'm not being poisoned by some kind of nonsense while we're doing this. My energy's good. Okay, and there you go. Okay. So first of all, Lauren, would you like me to cut anything, or are they ready to go? In the meantime, I'm going to light the candle and prepare that way. Great. Okay. Now I wonder, is that visible? I don't think the flame is visible. I don't know if I can, where I can put it where it'll be on camera. Let me move my cup up. My cup, incidentally, is a, I use it to hold my ashes. For my incense, because you know the cup is ultimately a vessel, right? And if you consider the symbolism of the ashes being the dissolution of the self, and so this symbolizes my cup is always full with you know the old self, and the recognition that that's okay. So that, you know, it's really, really easy to let go of the old stuff when you recognize that the new self never had the stuff. There's nothing to carry. It's old. It's fresh. It's all gone. All of it. And the new thing is something that you kind of form from the beginning. So that's, you know, if I move my cup, I can put the candle up where you might be able to see it. So let's see if that'll happen. Let's swap that out. There we go. Okay. Sorry, kitty cat. All right, that's good. At least the light's visible. Great. Okay. I'm actually going to begin with this. And what we're going to do here is the first card I'm going to draw is going to be you, with respect to where you are in this connection. And what I mean by that is, what is your motivation? What are you feeling? You know, and you know what you're feeling. You know what your heart is feeling. But This is going to be your soul. This is kind of like where you actually are. And oftentimes we'll find if there is a conflict in this circumstance, this can uncover that. This is going to be him. How does he see you? Right? What's the dynamic here? Okay. You. Saturn in Aries. Him. The moon in Virgo. Okay. So then. You. There's something here. Aries is obviously a powerful energy. It's a strong energy. It sort of feels like a dominance, but more important than that is kind of a confidence, because risk requires that confidence to take place. Like, there's no risk if you don't have the fuel to take the risk, right? But then we have Saturn. Now, it's, you know, the dark sun. We're going to be seeing a very special picture of Saturn tonight, in fact. But also, what this is implying as far as how you see him and how you see the connection is that there's never really a confidence about it, but you still... And what I mean by confidence in the connection maintaining. But there's confidence, you feel like, I can fix it, I can do it. This is where we see here. I have the key. I have the magic, the mojo to make it happen, right? I can fix him. No, you can't. Transformation can only occur inside, right? It's like, you know, I don't know if we all, where you guys went to school or what your particular study was or whatever the case, but I remember learning in government, you can't install democracy. Like, you can't go to a country that's like a dictatorship and like kill the leader and then tell everybody you're free now and we're gonna have elections and, you know, go be free. That doesn't work. You can't install democracy. It has to come from within. The people have to go, wait a minute, this shit ain't good, and they have to kill the leader, and they have to stand up and say, now we're gonna make laws and we're gonna do it our way. But it has to come from within. That desire needs to come from inside. It can't be installed. It can't be created. Right. And now him. Moon in Virgo. Moon in Virgo. So, you know. I don't know, I just want to be clear so that everyone's on the same page here. We're in the period of the 10 of Pentacle right now, and we're going to be moving into the 2 of Sword, which incidentally happens to be Lauren's card, her birth card, her period of time that she's born under. That's right, her birthday's coming up. If you don't have the wish list up on Amazon, get that done because it's getting close. But she's ruled by the moon. The moon is present in her energy, and therefore, where the moon is present, there's immediately going to be some kind of like emotional attachment, connection, attention. Doesn't have to be positive, negative, otherwise, but there's an attention that's drawn from that. But also now we're dealing with Virgo. Virgos are picky. Virgos are, and what I mean by picky is that, you know, they use it as a device, right? They, it's kind of like, at least on the negative end of a Virgo, is this idea of making sure that they point out your flaws, but in a way that is passive aggressive. And then when it transfers into non-passive aggressive, when it turns into dominance, it can be actually kind of bad. But now what we're also seeing here as far as this order is concerned, because the question is with respect to how he sees you. And, you know, there's this kind of idea here of control. And it might not even be direct control, because there does seem to be somewhat of a manipulation. Like there's an idea here of a calculatedness in how he sees you, right? I'm going to do one more. And what this is the nature of the connection with these two things combined. You know, there's an idea, it's an ancient kind of low magic, old magic kind of idea, which is that when two people get together for any reason, when you shake hands to do a business deal at the end of buying a pack of gum, there's an entity that's created in that connection, and it has a personality, a life, a life span. It has an identity. And that identity has qualities, and its lifespan is typically very small, right? I mean, as soon as you leave the store, it's already past infancy, teenagehood. Like, this entity is on its way to die. And anyway, it's really just an idea of what is the thing that these two are creating together right now. Not what they did, not just right now. What is the nature of that? Because you've said some things here, like, my friends think he's gonna, and rightfully so, because you've done it before. And it's like old, it's like, but at the same time, it's new each time, it's different each time, and where, based on how he sees you and you see him, is it right now? So let's take a look at that, and we're gonna do one more of these, and then we're gonna get to the tarot. Huh. A little bit more Saturn. Pisces. Saturn and Pisces. The idea here it's very interesting, the dynamic of these two images and why this is here, because it's really it's almost kind of like a tough card, because the bottom shows this obvious symbol of over, right? Like it's this, I mean, the bird's picking the last piece of flesh off, there's nothing left, it's a dry skull, it's like dead. And up here we have this big house and this beautiful land, and we have this family, and they're looking up, and so it's like, that doesn't seem like loss, but well, not really, but what this is an inheritance, right? These people inherited this, and they're going to see the house that they just inherited. So it's not the idea of like any kind of happiness. It's really this idea of what they have inherited. But now what we're talking about here also is Saturn and Pisces. And so the important thing here is that there is a sensation felt, right? And now Pisces also refers to, if you look at what this symbol means, one of the images is of two fish, right? And so there is this idea, and they're separate, but they're facing each other. And so there's the whole sensation I get of this card, and really of what we're seeing so far, is that you're both aware of the loss. The loss is real. It's felt. But also there's this Saturn with you, right? And now we've talked about that before, with this idea of you not really being able to vocalize things. And that's not going to serve you in the future. But that's okay, because the you in the future will be a different you, and you're not going to behave the same. So, but so I'm just going to leave this card up. I'm going to put it up here. Okay, so it's going to be here like as part of the reading in the meantime. And now we're going to move on to the tarot. And so now we're going to actually get to the heart, to the core of the question here, because what I'm going to be reading now is soul talk. Okay? And so what we're going to be looking at is, if you were able to quiet the noise and hear your true self, right? Similar to what I talked about in the beginning here, if you were present with the cup, being receptive to the will of your higher self and allowing it to install that will into your heart. That process is a willful act. The act of communion is showing up at church and getting up there and taking your bread, and right, it's an act, and it also requires two people, you and the person offering the wine and the cup, right? And like it requires that two-way communication. It's not an alone thing. That popped out. We're going to use that. And so the question here is, what are you supposed to be hearing? Let me rephrase that. What would you be hearing if you were able to quiet the mind, the body, the heart? The soul is always, always, always talking to us, every moment, every second. And now, unfortunately, it has a really, 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 really dim whisper. It's very quiet. And so it's really, really hard to hear. Very much like the light of the lantern of the hermit, that only shines on the truth, but doesn't work in the sun because it gets drowned out. So you have to go into the darkness, right? Silence. Silence is the place that all phenomena emerges. And it's in that place that all creation emerges, right? And that includes the new you that you're going to become. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, so powerful. Just look at the imagery first of all. Let's just take a moment to appreciate what we're looking at here. Just gorgeous. And with respect to your message, to what it is that we're reading on today. So, okay. The Three of Pentacles is such an amazing card to come up in this circumstance, right? Because, it requires action. What you're talking about requires action. This isn't some kind of like someone else can hand you something and then that will fix it, or there's this is, however, not alone. And this implies that, and that there's work to be done. Crowley actually calls the card Works, which is great because it refers to this idea of gears. Imagine 3 gears, and each one turning the next, which turns the next, and then the thing happens. And so, the implication here is very beautiful and profound. It's the idea of you are grabbing with 2 hands this rope, and you're about to close your eyes and swing across a chasm, and that chasm is called the abyss. One day we'll talk about that on the channel. It's a very powerful lesson. And that shit is scary. But you're not going to do it alone. But here's the point. They're not going to swing with you. Otherwise, they would also have 2 hands on. So you're going to swing by yourself. I know. But it's okay. I got you. If you swing back, I'll grab you, it's okay. But you won't swing back. This is kind of the idea of, imagine a parent and a child at a swing, and this is the parent pulling the swing up and then letting go, and the child swings, right? And so it's not pushing. It's like, we got this. Here's what you need to do. Here's what you're going to see. Here's what you're going to feel. Second is the Seven of Wands. The Seven of Wands, we've seen this card actually before. It's a recent period of time that we've been in. And I've spoke to it at length during that period. But what this card refers to is the period of time of having the high ground, of standing alone and fighting the adversity. But, and she depicts it here as well, the position is very specifically drawn to be from the high ground, like they're looking up at you. Important lesson. There's no injury. There's confidence. This person is in a good place. They're, right? Which basically means that you're going to be going through some shit. But all of it is, if you notice, there's no actual enemies. The work is internal. And there's a few things that need to be knocked out, right? Just a couple. A few. More than one. I'm actually feeling it's not because of this card. It's three. There's three things that you need to address. And we'll figure out what those are. And then, the Eight of Wands. There's all kinds of good stuff going on here. The Eight of Wands is a cool place. It's like, and actually I am gonna pop up the rider. It's this idea of, and it's such a beautiful, because this isn't bad. Her interpretation of it isn't bad visually. We have the wands on the bottom, and then we have the birds flying over it, and so I like that. Right. But this interpretation here really gets to the heart visually of what we're talking about. Right? This is a left brain card right here. There's no interpretation necessary once you look at it from the left brain. And what I mean is that this is the end of the journey. Right? They started, they peaked, and now they're coming to the end. Like there's no way to see this with respect to forward, backward, right? And I know my camera's messed. I can never get that right. Looking at the card, we assume the right-hand side is the future. The left-hand side is the past, coming from the past into the future. Sanjita, hello. Thanks for popping back in. And so this refers to the end. This is the end. No, I'm not going to, don't worry. So, all right. And at the end of this process, you're flying over. It's like walking up to the fence and finally realizing that, wait a minute, I can just walk around it, right? Or, these sticks are all flying at you, and it's like, wait a minute, I can just step aside and it's going to fly past me. Like, this is and that sounds easy, right? Like, oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah, cool, Michael. I'm great. It's easy. If it were that simple, then why am I talking to you? And it's true, but it's each one of these can just completely dissolve. It's like the moment you have the realization, there's some things, like I mentioned, that can't be taught, they can only be learned, right? Well, there's some things that cannot be unlearned once you've learned it. And once you've learned it, everything that's attached to the old way of thinking completely disappears. And here's an example, because this card is representative of that directly in the tarot. There's an idea of when it's time to go into battle, and you know you're about to let go of the, like the, daddy's going to let go of the swing, right? Or, whatever the case, in this case, let go of you when you're on this rope and swing across the chasm of the abyss of your life. You're scared, and you're not going to not be. But that's where courage comes in, because courage allows us to act in spite of fear. Now, then you show up for the battle, and then you recognize, wow, I'm actually not doing so bad. I'm kind of winning this battle. Like, I was kind of scared, and you know what, man, that was fun. I actually want to do it again. And so now the courage isn't necessary, because now you're fearless. But this energy that was built by the courage is still there. It hasn't disappeared just because the fear's gone. The energy's still there, and it gives you the opportunity to transform that from courage into power. And when you do that, you achieve the card strength, which is a lack of fear. And that courage being transferred into strength. And what that does is allows you to be open to the next process, right? And now this is very profound, this 8, because, the 8 is always, whenever you see it in a reading, regardless of the suit, just look at the 8s. They usually have a kind of like a darker kind of vibe to them. And that's because this is a transformative period of time before the 9, which is when you get to the point of like stuff starting to get complete, right? So what I'm saying is, to kind of sum up this initial phase here, the question is what do I need to do? And the answer here is from your soul that has been whispering to you this message. You're not alone. You're gonna be afraid. You're gonna be okay. The journey is coming to an end. And of course, what's at the end of every end? The next beginning, right? Now, very fortunately, actually, some very cool shit's going on that's specific to you. This is unique to you. Is the period of time that we're in right now. We're about to exit the 10 of Pentacles, which is the final card of the tarot, and then enter your birth phase in the idea of the 2 of Swords, which is the idea of these competing thoughts. Should I, shouldn't I? Neither. Because the question implies I, and the I that exists right now will not be there in a couple of days, in a week. And if you do the work, that transformation is permanent. So, that said, I'm going to pause and just get some feedback, questions, anything you want me to elaborate on. I can elaborate either with, and I'll decide based on your question, if you want to elaborate with the tarot or with the oracle. And I'm just going to pause. We'll pause there and see how you're feeling. Actually, let me turn off temperance because it's not relevant to this reading. That was okay. Ceremonial, thank you for popping in. Hello. Oh, and Sangeeta, I'm going to be getting to Sanji. Thanks for popping. If you could, I'm going to be getting back to the list here in a little bit. There's several people in front of everybody. So, Sangeeta, Shamila, Sanji, we can talk later too if I'm not able to get to you tonight. I'm so sorry. Let me just read your message real quickly. Hi, I'm here. Oh, wow, yeah. Oh, I know that feeling. You know, part of that's just kind of letting go of the things that you think you want to accomplish. And so, you know, part of not having enough time in the day is not having enough time in the day. It's having too much stuff to do. But we'll get there. We'll talk about that. But awesome, Tavon. All right, cool. So, because you're going to be, Sarav, if you're still here, you're next. If not, Tavon will be next. Artie, how's it going? And so I'll be opening up the list shortly. After we get through these 4 people here, once Lauren and I are complete. Here, let me just do that so that it's clear. There we go. Okay. Okay, good. All right, so, Lauren. I feel that I've come to the conclusion that it's over. Okay. Well, it's also, you know, the conclusion that it's over is good. That's good. But that's a mental activity, right? You have mentally come to the conclusion that it's over. So what we need to do is we need to convince your heart that that's the case. You know, we have to convince... I really relate to the Two of Swords because I feel like part of me wants it. I totally know what you're talking about. I mean, totally. We'll get there. No one... It comes to this, Lauren. That energy is always available to you. Because, and you know, remember, there's always these different meanings, and the surface meaning is holding these 2 ideas, and that is absolutely true. And also notice the moon is there. Just everything about it is beautiful. And we're going to talk about that in my talk tonight with respect to the cheat sheet cards. However, the Hermit is the period that we're in right now. And so it allows you that ease of doing that work. Now, in this particular case, though, the 3 of... Let me zoom to the right. The 3 of Pentacle here is implying that this is not alone, which is very unique. And again, it's probably because the energy is so dynamic. It's right near your birth. We're in the 10 of Pentacle period of time, and all this is going on. You're reflecting on the past. You know, it's like looking toward the future. All this stuff's going on. It's a very sort of dynamic energy here, but your Hermit is not alone, which is really weird. And it's not totally off of... but, yeah. And actually, I realized that I made a brief error, and I'm sorry I didn't catch it sooner, but you are in Libra. So your birth... your sun sign is not the Hermit, obviously. Your sun sign is Justice. And I'm so sorry for that. Now, this is a little odd because there's different numbering systems based on whether you're looking at one system or the other with respect to justice. And we're gonna look at that tonight, actually, as far as the numbering. It was corrected, and then some people don't agree with it, and whatever the case may be. But so, just for the sake of the conversation, I'm going to put it at 8, and there's a possibility that people who are watching the stream or watching this video after the fact will say, wait a minute, isn't it number 11? And that just depends upon the deck that you are on. So I'm just going to put it as number 8. And so I apologize for that. And in the Crowley system, it's called adjustment. But so anyway, then back to where we were. The two of sword is an energy that is easy for you because it's something that you kind of carry, this ability to not only carry the two swords, but also not to identify with them. Not to. However, that can lean based on other factors, right? And other parts of your form. It's we're a combination of the four elements, and this is just the element of mind. These are ideas, not actual, right? So, but now the hermit is the period of time that we're in, so there's also ease. And what this allows you to do is to go through the process of seeing in the dark with that inner light. And so no, it's never too late to donate for a reading, and it's part of kind of the rule here is that donations jump the line, right? And so if you do donate, then you'll be jumping the line. So at the end of the day, you've already taken the step. You've already recognized that you, just by virtue of the fact that this is the question that you asked, and by virtue of the fact that you sought the answer, you're in a state of seeking, and so that's good. You don't want to be in a state of finding, because in a state of finding, there's assumptions, and you don't want to do that. When you're in a state of seeking, you're open to the truth, right? And that's what I'm asking you to do here. And so now, what I would say is there's some things that there's some work that needs to be done here. What I'm going to do is this. So what I'm going to do is take a screenshot of this, and then I will have it available, and I would like to connect with you at some point in the near future and continue the reading with respect to locating some of this and kind of figuring out a couple of things here that can, and again, I kind of get the vibe of 3, but figuring out some of the things that need to be dropped. And if you're open to it, to play the role of the 3 of Pentacles, in the beginning of this process, right? And if you'll allow me to, I can pull that swing back, right? And it can really be powerful. So that said, I'm just going to kind of end it there, and we can continue it in private, okay? Alrighty. And so please, if you did, yep, I did get it. We're good. If you did find any value or insight, just give the video a like. I know you probably already did, Lauren, but just give the video a like and consider a comment. Something as basic as, thank you so much, or you're awful, or, whatever, just something, and it makes a big difference, the comments on the video. And I really appreciate it. I really do. Thank you. No, really. It means a lot. Okay, so that said, Sarifa has donated. And so let me just get this set up here. And Sarifa, I'm just going to need like 2 minutes to gather myself, heat up a little coffee, and kind of center, and then we'll continue with the reading. In the meantime, let me save. I just need a couple of quick little things. Awesome. That's cool. I love that. Yeah, it's easy for me because I'm Michael, so I always get I always get my name pronounced properly, even in other countries, right? But yeah, no, so I'm glad. That said, though, since you donated, it's your pick on the type of reading that you'd like, and it's your pick on the deck. And so while I'm centering, heating my coffee, I just need your month and day. Don't need the year. You don't need to share the year, but the month and day of your birth. Oh, yeah. Although I feel like, and I don't know, I don't want to seem cocky, but I feel like I would have read it properly too. I don't know, I have a knack for that. It's weird. Not in every culture, but in there's, I don't know, it's strange. I'm able to pronounce it properly in certain cultures. Although I'm not a polyglot, I have learned a couple languages in my life, and that's helped along. You can't study the tarot seriously without at least having a working knowledge of the Hebrew language. Greek doesn't hurt either. But yeah, so and then you know, I did a lot of work in French Canada. Bonjour. Parlez-vous anglais? That's the first thing I learned. Good morning. Do you speak English? All right, but yeah. So a lot of the decks I'm using today, like the combo that I just used, if you like that, I like this combo for certain types of reading. Or you can just kind of leave it up to me based on the type of question or the type of reading that you're interested in. And so we'll consider that as well. But so while I'm away, just in the chat, pop your month and day of birth. And then we'll begin in a couple minutes, okay? In the meantime, I'm going to leave you all with a beautiful picture of a purple flower. May 20th. Okay. Great. Awesome. Okay. Let's see here. There it is. Okay, so, and this will make sense a lot. If you guys stick around for the talk after readings, then this is going to make a lot of sense. Don't miss the purple. Okay, so I just need a couple minutes to center. I'll be right back. I'm going to cut the mic. Me too. Purple is beautiful because if you consider that everything that is manifested in existence started with the wand and the cup, which is fire and water, which is red and blue, and what happens when you combine red and blue? How awesome is that, right? So purple is a holy color for a reason. In the meantime, yeah. So I will be back shortly. Alrighty. Thank you for everybody's patience. It's looking that way, Tavon, yes. And actually, let's update this. Okay, great. Okay, so May 20th, first of all, let's locate your birth card. I guess the end of Taurus. The Seven of Pentacles. And we're also looking at Saturn in Taurus. Right? So let's go ahead and set that up real quick. Do the sun sign, Taurus is okay. Did I spell that right? I never know if I get it right. I believe that looks correct. Okay, so let's pop that out. Okay. And so, first of all, yeah, this is an energy that actually a lot of us are going to wind up feeling familiar with, but particularly Sarifa is very affected by this, and we'll talk about what that is in just a moment. And let's pop up your major. Okay. There it is. Okay, and then finally. Great. So what we're looking at, just to clarify so that everyone understands what this stack of cards is and all this stuff going on here. Sarifa was born under the period of time of the Seven of Pentacles. And the Hierophant refers to the major arcana that is symbolized and ruled by the period of time as well. Right? And if we look at the wheel here, we're looking at May 20th, which is in that orange section under Taurus, right? And we'll see it also represents the moon, or in this case, Saturn in Taurus. Okay? And now that's a slightly different energy than, say, the Six of Pentacles, which is the moon, or the Five of Pentacles, which is Mercury. This is a... there's a couple of different ideas with respect to Taurus that we're all familiar with, right? But in respect to Saturn, that this is a hidden energy. It's not necessarily readily available, and not always to yourself even. Meaning that the Tauran usually has the ability to access that strength. It's almost kind of like carried with them, right? But for you, it's different. This is not readily obvious to the world, and that's why you see this person here hunched over their stick looking here, because what this person is really bored. And why are they bored? Because they're underutilized. They have a strength inside, an ability, a skill, a talent, a gift that's not being used, because for some reason they're not showing this gift to the world, or they're not expressing it. The Hierophant is an interesting card too. You know, the Hierophant refers to a lot of different things, and I'm not going to get into all of them because the majors are an intense subject. And so there's the layers of knowledge. The outer layer of the knowledge of the Hierophant is the institution. We can always go to religion to find the rules that we have our worldview by. We can always go to the institution of education to know what it is that we're supposed to know. We can always go to the institution of government to know, how to be a good citizen. And these all form what's called our worldview. And our worldview are our assumptions, the things that we don't even think about because they're ingrained in our thinking. My example, and I have talked on this subject for almost 40 years, for the Hierophant, is getting up from a chair. I'm sitting in my chair right now, and a moment ago I got up to make myself a cup of coffee and to stand outside and look up at Jupiter right now, by the way. If you live in the northeastern United States, you're very lucky because you can look up and Jupiter's this big, beautiful, bright star in the sky right now. You can't miss it. It's the brightest thing you can see that's not twinkling. And in order to get up and do that, I had to stand first, right? And so I stood. Now, did I think about whether or not the floor was going to be there to meet my foot? Of course not. It never even dawned on me to think that. I just got up. I knew that the floor was going to be there, and I knew that my foot was going to stop on it. That's a worldview. That is ingrained in my thinking, and it's just part of my thought to such a degree that it doesn't even enter my conscious processing. It just occurs, right? And the Hierophant refers to the institutions that provide the worldview, the lens by which we interrogate our universe, right? And then we have the Hermit, which is the period of time that we're in right now, reflected on, covering the environment in which the Hierophant does its work during this time. Now, keep in mind, important thing here, okay? The Seven of Pentacle and the Hierophant do not change. These are static cards your whole life. These, you carry them with you in your pocket, and they're there always. So, just like your sun sign. Somebody asks you your sun sign, you tell them Taurus. But now you're also going to tell them Saturn in Taurus. And, you can also, if you visit another reader or somebody who is an astrological intuitive, you can tell them Saturn in Taurus, or you can also tell them the Seven of Pentacle. But these cards don't change through your life. However, the Hermit does change, and the Ten of Pentacle does change. This is the period of time that we're in right now, which is representative by the green section of the Ten of Pentacle there, immediately to the right. About to move out of that into the Two of Swords. We're leaving this period of time and entering a new season, the autumnal equinox, fall, the harvest. Hope you did the work, because if you did, you get to harvest, and if not, then it's not a fun time. Fall is ugly when you haven't spent the summer growing, right? So the Hermit is a period of time that gives us this opportunity to, with relative ease, since the energy is there anyway, the momentum is sort of toward the work anyway, to look inside and to do that, and to figure out what is the thing holding you back from expressing that, so that you can get out of this state of the Seven and instead turn it into an intolerance for not being utilized, an intolerance for not fulfilling your potential. Because that's the exalted version, that's the elevated version of the Seven of Pentacle, is the idea of not allowing to be unutilized, standing for your integrity at all costs, and to subvert the Hierophant, to overcome the institution, and to become powerful in yourself, right? And this period of time allows you to do that. So rather than being in the state that you're in now, it puts you in the state of being able to transform that energy into power, into instead of feeling depressed over being unutilized, you are empowered to show the world what you got. Okay, now I'm just going to stop real quick and read the chat. The question I had was a connection between the person Tim and I. Okay, I just wanted to know how he's feeling toward me, and if our connection is leading us to a possible higher level of commitment. Okay, that's a great question. And so now keep everything I just said to you in mind with respect to the next period of time up until about the end of spring, or summer rather, the end of summer. Okay, because this is the time that this work would be relatively easy. And if you need help on that, you can call or text. If you're out of the country, it is connected to WhatsApp, so you can connect with me on WhatsApp, and we can talk about that and how to utilize this. Okay, great. So now that said, let's throw some cards. So let's see, what are we looking at here? This is another kind of love connection. So that said, I'm going to use the same combination of cards. I think I feel good about it, and I think that I'm going to do that. Now I'm also going to light some incense. I was going to do Nagchampa, but I'm not. Instead, I'm going to do purple, because purple. Yeah, give me a moment here, sorry. Just a sec. This is incidentally the incense that I send out with my, which a couple people are going to be getting tonight with the incense kits. It's a backflow with several different smells, several different colors, and I really just kind of think about the energy of the person that I read, and what I think they're going to need, and then I put together a little care package and send it out to you. So, and unfortunately, that's only available to the U.S. and Canada, just because postage is kind of crazy, as you can imagine. But I'm going to light some purple, which again is the union of red and blue, and we talked about that before with respect to the wand and the cup combining to create the perfected being, right? That's the goal of the work, is the universe perfected as the macrocosm and the individual perfected as the microcosm, which is a literal, not figurative, not spiritual, not symbolic, a literal holographic representation. They are the same. You are the same. Okay, that said, let's light some incense. And the goal of the work is to find that center and to get an idea of what is the energy between these two people, what is the perspective that each has for the other, and what is the heart saying compared to the soul. What does the body want that it keeps trying to convince the heart is what it needs? Let's find out. I believe that's going to stay. I'll give it a little more. So, all right, let us begin. The first thing I'm going to look at here is, this is going to be a very similar reading to what you just saw. It's obviously going to go in a completely different direction, but that's okay. And, you know, we may find different connections and some other things, and so it may wind up looking a little bit different than what we had just seen, but that's the beauty, is allowing for that organic process to occur. And so this is going to be you. And again, what we're looking at here is, we're not looking at you. We're looking at your contribution, perspective on the circumstance. And same thing here. how is this connection viewed right now? Not where it came from, not where it's going, but where we are right now. Wow, they're both in Venus. Okay. Wow. All right, so this is you in the circumstance, this is them in the circumstance, and right now how they're viewing it. And you are viewing this in Venus in Virgo, and they're viewing it as Venus in Taurus. Okay, now these are two very different energies. Venus obviously is involved, and that's kind of neat that we have two Venus cards in a love reading. That's just kind of neat. And specifically what we're referring to here is you are seeing this as no, you're next, Tavon. Yeah, you're next. Your name will be up on the screen as well, and I'll make sure that I call out for you to see if you're still here, and you're next on the list. Wow, how do you like that? That probably would make sense too. You know, there's any of that connection on this, and we're gonna get to him in a second. But why they are in this position, like why they're feeling this way. But discrimination is interesting here, because you have this kind of idea of like choosing, deciding, meaning that those like you're in a position of kind of like choosing. It almost is there's this sense I get that he's not your only option. Whether or not you know that's a very strong sensation that I'm getting, and we'll uncover that as well if that's the case or not. I want to warn everybody that there's a possibility my smoke alarm goes off, and if it does, I apologize for the blaring noise, and I'll have it shut off as soon as possible. Okay, so. And now in their circumstance, what they're seeing, when they think about you, gee, I wonder, I mean, this is a hard one to interpret, right? I mean, I'm going to have to really, maybe I should go get the book and read it to make sure that I'm, solid on what this means. Although there is another dynamic here, which is the fact that we're talking about Taurus. Taurus is the kind of thing that, like, they're hard to change the mind. Like, once it's charging, you can't stop it. Interesting. There's quite a couple of guys who have their eyes on me, and I'm oh, yeah. That's okay, though. There's nothing wrong with being drawn to him, because, I mean, and look what we're looking at here. Like, again, he's looking at you as a target, right? And he's looking at you as desire. He desires you. There is a want. But romance is also very specific. Romance implies romance implies not just want. That's the beauty, because that would be lust, or that would be a bodily thing. Romance is the idea of wanting to woo you, wanting you to want them, wanting to play the game of raising your and consuming your love and doing the same, like in that play. That's romance, right? Kind of getting into the heart of that person and saying what's going to push their buttons, and then having fun with that, right? During the courting process, and if you're lucky as well after the fact. It's a shame that romance doesn't survive even good relationships. Yeah, and we'll, I'm sure that we'll get to that. But yeah. Although, disagreement or not, his heart is with you. Like that's romance is a good card here. But there's also this idea, there's like a dominance. Like, if you see this, like, energy, the woman is being swept away. Like, he's the, coming from behind and being the giver of your love. And, so there is this kind of idea of there being a... Not that he feels dominant. That's not what I mean. But more that there's this level of, like, he's the aggressor of the love. But he definitely feels love. Like, it's real. The last card I'm going to pull is the idea of, like I spoke about before, the entity, the personality of the thing that's created between your current situation, not what occurred in the past, not what's going to occur in the future. This is not a prediction. What this is looking at these two combined as an entity to get a little clearer perspective, right? Good. Oh my gosh, guys, how beautiful is this? The sun in Scorpio. Endurance. Endurance is the idea of having the strength when you don't have the strength to keep going. Right? Strength lets you pick up a heavy thing. Endurance lets you do it multiple times. Powerful. So, first off, before I start flipping cards, first off, just wow. You two are meant. It's real. You're in this place, and I understand. Yeah. So, let me ask you, how far away are you? Like, are you like an hour away, or are you like, an annoying train ride, or like, what kind of distance are we talking about? Oh, crap. Yeah, that's unfortunate. 7 hours is a bit. That's equivalent in where I am to Northern California. Yeah, I was gonna say it's equivalent to like going from New York to Georgia, maybe even a little bit north of that. But yeah, that's a big trip. And you're in California, which is like the entire length of the United States with a tiny little sliver, of it on the north side that's not California. But so, wow. Yeah. Because it's hard, there's certain work that needs to be done in relationships that can't really be done other than in person. You need to smell them, you need to feel them, you need to actually meet eyes, like that is a difference. There's a literal touch there. Right here, there's no touch. You can hear my voice, but it's not. It's digitized. You can see my eyes, but not really. But when you're in person, and this also goes for a photograph, what I'm about to say also includes a photograph. Consider that the next time you look at a picture of somebody that's passed that you love. When you're meeting eyes with somebody, there's a particle that came from the sun. Incidentally, it took 1 million years to just exit the gravity of the sun itself. So consider that beam of light that comes from the sun and hits your eye is 1,000,008 minutes old. 1,000,000 years and 8 minutes. Anyway, that said, it traveled for 1 million years to get to your eye, and then it bounced off of your eye into theirs. and then back and forth, right? And so if you're witnessing their eyes and the two of you are looking at each other, you're touching. This particle of light bouncing back and forth is literally a physical connection. And consider that as well when you look at a photograph of what you're actually looking at. A photograph is literally a particle of light hit a piece of film. It's not like today with digital cameras where it's hitting a sensor and then interpreted and you're seeing the interpretation. This is literally that beam of light burned into that, affected the chemicals, a change happened, and when you look at that photograph, you're looking at a literal, it touched that person's face, and then it touched the photograph, and then it bounced off into space. And so what you're looking at is literally, that's literally their physical form burnt into that photograph, and they're touching it. And it's the same thing when you're in person. So, and it's hard to have that over the internet or the telephone or whatever the case may be, right? And you lose all that connection. Yep. Wow. And maybe we'll find out why, what's kind of holding him back. But let's take a look at that. Do you feel like this should be cut, or is it ready? Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, I know. That's it means a lot to me too, the music. It's a big deal. It's actually I'm having a lot of issues on TikTok, which I think, I'm not a fan of TikTok. I don't use it. I don't look at it. Like, I've never actually watched a video on TikTok. I just post. But I was told that there's a lot of engagement and that's a good place and I should go there. And I'm like, I don't know, this just feels wrong. But in the meantime, there's no mechanism for copyright issues, and I have full rights to this music. I'm allowed to use it. I'm actually writing my own music to get over it because I'm tired of having to deal with the copyright issues. But it's very important that I have music as part of my stream. I won't have it any other way, and so I'm actually not posting a bunch of videos on TikTok because they give me no mechanism to prove that I have the rights, and they just mute your video. So, whatever. Ganja, how's it going? So, yeah. All right, so. Moving forward now, we have to consider what we're looking at here. Oh, really? Yeah. Well, I take it seriously, and I feel like, for somebody to talk meanings at you is one thing, but for you to really get into the process and understand where I'm coming from, because the goal of this channel and the story is to not give you answers. It's to maintain the integrity of this art by, first of all, doing it properly and people witnessing that. And secondly, my goal is to introduce you to yourself, to bring you through the process of understanding how to approach this oracle so that you take it seriously as a seeker, and that you demand that your readers take it seriously, and that the guides that you bring into your life are going to take it just as seriously as you are. And so that's the goal here. And so the setup matters because it's important that I am able to show what I want you to see and hear what I need you to hear so that we can make this the best, right? And all I ask is that you do the same thing. Meet me halfway and do the same thing. This is a religious act happening right now. This is soul talk. And that can't be done with the mind. And if you come in here with a preconception, it won't work. That can't be done with the heart. The heart has its own wants. It has to be empty and open. The mind has to be devoid of the lust of result. your will should be nothing more than knowing the truth, right? And if we do that, I promise you I'm going to show up. I promise you. And we will get to the answer. It's quite beautiful. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm not just talking, I'm walking my talk. And so my goal here is to introduce you to yourself. And the way that we're going to do that is that we're going to take a look at what your soul, your spirit, is trying to say to you that you haven't been able to hear for whatever reason with respect to Tim. Because that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about a love that's been along for a long time, and that there is some strength here. We're even being told directly to hang on. I know you're tired, but don't worry. Right? So, what we're looking at here is kind of like what your soul thinks you're trying to say. I.e., if it's interpreting your heart, that's what it thinks you're trying to say. This is what it is actually saying. And this is kind of like that bridge of, if you kind of combine those two things, which one's the dominant message, and you read these two cards and then you read these two cards. That's actually a technique that comes from the I Ching, the inner trigrams, right? That's some heavy shit I just dropped on you people. That was like a secret, but that idea is very powerful when reading 3-card readings. And usually I do it in my head, and I don't do that, so that I don't know why I chose to reveal it. But anyway, okay, so, oh wow, cool. All right, well, first of all, we have what it is hearing from you, or what it thinks your heart wants, and what it thinks your heart wants is. The answer is the institution. This is the Hierophant, incidentally. She calls it the Wise One, and it's number 5. But just to clarify so that people know, the Hierophant is the number 5, right? You see it here on the right-hand side. And so she just has a different name for the card, which is why I just wanted to clarify that. It's called the Wise One. And so you have these two people here that show up, and they're listening to the rules. But specifically, though, what this refers to is that your spirit is under the impression that your heart is looking for the same old. Like, why can't I just go back to the way things were? That's what you're asking for. You're asking your spirit to provide the way things were. And now here we have the Two of Pentacles, which actually literally refers to the word change. In the beginning, there was nothing except consciousness. And then something happened. Out of the scope of this, but something happened. What happened? That consciousness became a conscious awareness, and that gave birth to one. Then, that conscious awareness, in its awareness, and recognizing itself, also recognized everything else that was not itself. Not I. I, not I. 2. 2 is a place where an environment for change occurs. It's the first moment where there's something other than you. Options. Opportunity. It's the first point where something can actually change, where something can occur. Right? 1 is one-dimensional. It's infinite. There's no definition. There's no nothing. It's the same as nothing. 1 and 0 are the same. 2 things change. They go this way, they go that way, they go up and down, there's left or right. You know, it's the basic idea of direction. It's a very powerful message. And this also refers to, very specifically, and this is the biggie, the pentacle, or manifesting that change physically. So we're not talking about emotional change, we're not talking about, okay, we're talking about something very specific here, which is manifesting it physically, okay? Change in the world. There's the final idea of there being options. The Rider-Waite has a very beautiful image of an individual who is juggling. This is both of you. Picture the image of this is you in the front, going back and forth, and then that in the back is him doing the same thing. But neither of you are aware of the other one doing it, right? It's a great reading. The energy's all over the place that you two belong together, and there's this, you know, step that needs to be taken, and we're going to get to it. And then we have the Ten of Swords. The Ten of Swords in this particular circumstance is kind of great because the Ten of Swords, first of all, any of the tens are the final card of that suit, and the suits are in a very specific order. They are in the order of Wand, Cup, Sword, Pentacle, Fire, Water, Air, Earth, Soul, Heart, Mind, Body. Now, why is that significant? Because we have here the Ten of Swords, the end of mind entering body, meaning that thoughts manifested physically. Okay? Now, the Ten of Swords, very often you'll see this image of a person that's stabbed in every single part of their body. Now, that's an ugly image, but there's a very occult reason for that, because it is the death of the sword. It's the end of the swords. And so every single idea is just like presented, manifested. It's like the swelling of the energy of the sword. And now, when you're getting toward the end of something, there's something called the death throes, right? It's like when something doesn't want to go, but it's being forced to, it fights it. And so this period of time of the Ten of Swords can sometimes be very overwhelming. And so what we need to do is we need to let go of thought and go into wisdom, and or go into the peace that comes with that, right? And so look at her Ten of Swords. This, by the way, is the Tarot of the Abyss by Anna Torian. Beautiful deck. And so she has two Ten of Swords. She has this one, and she has the one that we're all familiar with. And so this is the one that popped. And I kept them both in the deck on purpose. Okay, this is a different one. This is actually succumbing to that willingly, dying willingly, meaning letting go of the thoughts. And when you do that, it allows you openly to bring into physical manifestation what the two of you want, what the two of you are both thinking. So what this is essentially doing is there's some stuff that you need to just let go of that are stuck in your mind, and they poke at you. And they inform your feelings, they inform your decisions, they're stopping you from taking action or movement that will bring you closer to your goal. Now, I'm just going to pause for a second and ask if there's any particular clarification that you'd like. Let me zoom on the desk. If there's any particular clarification that you'd like, so kind of where you want to expand, and we'll go from there. I'll tell you what I need to manifest physically in my life. More desk space. This may sound like a strange question. Have you considered counseling? Couples counseling, I mean. Sometimes, even just the act can, remind the two of you of kind of where you are and what your goal is. Now, obviously, you guys are far apart, and, you're just kind of stuck with the long distance thing for now, which is also that's a difficult thing to overcome sometimes. I'm not sure so far I get it. All right. The Ten of Swords? Well, basically what this refers to is there's something that you need to let go of. So let's look into that. That's not a bad card to clarify on. Because the Ten of Swords refers to the end of the mental and into the physical, meaning that you're there, there's this period, or there's these things that you're carrying, and you are not allowing this to continue. You're it's stuck in that mental phase, and when you let go of the swords and rely on wisdom. And what wisdom is sort of the unification, meaning that it's the idea of, rather than just relying on mental or relying on physical or relying on emotional intelligence, it's a matter of remaining open and seeing all the different perspectives. What does your body want? How is that different than your heart? How is that different than your mind? But the important thing to remember here, don't forget what we're reading here. This is your soul talking to you. You were born at the beginning of time as an infinite point of reception. You exist right now at the end of time, waiting for you to catch up. Seraphia is a name that you were given. It is not who you are. Which, by the way, incidentally, is that based on the word seraph, which would be beautiful, because that's just a gorgeous thing. But that said, you, the real you, exist at the end of time and are waiting for you to catch up. And what this is this, due to the power of the tarot and what it allows us to do, this gives us the ability to communicate with yourself, right? And you can actually hear the voice of that self. Because don't forget, the voice of the real you, who is living at the end of time and has always existed, knows the end of the story. They lived it. So it doesn't hurt every once in a while to kind of listen to what it has to say, and it's hard to do that, though. It's not easy to hear that. And so this is this message. These three cards are that. What is the whisper? What is it saying? And it's saying, let go of this thing that you're holding against him. Because it's kind of changing the dynamic of the way that you two see each other. This is what's going on internally. This is what's going on spiritually with you and what you really want. Because this is what it thinks you want. This is what your spirit thinks you are asking for. Can it just be the way it was? So at the end of the day, let's focus on that 10. And I'm going to put endurance as the card here and just leave that by itself right there. Okay, so we're just going to leave endurance right there. And we're going to leave the 10 of sword right there. Okay, so now what we're looking at here, this is the message from your soul. And this person is in a state of acceptance. They're looking into this and saying, okay, here's the deal. You got to let go. You got to succumb to the death. It's all right. Because what's next is manifesting what you actually want. Here's the deal. What's going to come into physical manifestation is what your self wants, and why you've heard it many times, I'm sure. As above, so below. What that means is that anything that manifests here physically happened there first. It has to happen there first, and then it manifests physically here. Whatever we do here has no effect on that world. It's only the opposite. It's only a one-way thing. So now what that means is that you have to create the change there first. And you can't create change there with the mind. Imagine if we could, how damaging that would be. I mean, every time we on our whim, when we're in a bad mood and we're kind of feeling crabby, that would really be bad for the people around us, right? But that said, though, we can create change in the world by enrolling our true self in our will when it's in accord, and then that manifests physically. And that's what you're asking for here. So it's not about going back to the past. It's about recognizing what the real desire is of your will, and then properly communicating that so that the two are in accord, and then it can't not manifest. It has to be. Okay, so now the Ten of Swords is this lesson of you having to let go of this thing that you're kind of holding against him, or something that is preventing you from acting in the way that will help drive this back together, the two of you back together. And what is that thing? What is the thing that you need to do to let go of, to drop? What is the thing that you're focused on that's stopping you from acting? Okay, this is really cool. Okay. More swords. This is the Three of Swords. Now this is another card that she kind of reworked. This is one of the most iconic images in the tarot. The Three of Swords is the heart with the three swords stuck through it. And in her version, there's this bird that's flying away, and there's a hole in her heart in the shape of the bird, and it's about, if you love it, let it go, and if it returns, it was meant to be. But that's not the lesson that we are in right now. Yeah, me too, but probably not in the circumstance that you thought, right? Because this is not the Three of Swords that we're used to. This is the Three of Swords in a book. And there's stuff coming out and then into the mind, right? And so your mind is being filled with three swords that are toxic. And so what we're looking at here, this is not necessarily the idea of like reading bad stuff, but what it is about the chatter. It's about the Hierophant. The world telling you, don't do this, don't do that. That's a bad idea. The internal chatter. Here's a perfect example of this. Like, you're talking about making a big decision. This isn't a small decision here. We're not talking about teenagers that want to, gee, does he like me? This is more the idea of mending a wounded love. And, I've said it before, and it begs repeating. Sometimes the wound is of a nature that can't be healed. And so rather, you have to be open to something new being created. And what I mean is, healing is the act of taking a thing that's damaged and trying to make it what it used to be. Which is the warning here. Get away from focusing on what used to be and be open to this new thing. And now, this is also the chatter. Typically, the chatter in this kind of circumstance of the world is saying, status quo. What do you mean? Don't stir the pot. Like, then I have to look at you, growing while I'm not, and I don't like that, and that's threatening to me, right? The world doesn't want that. Misery loves company. It recruits it. It creates it. But so, this is basically, ignore your mind. What we're looking at here now are going to be the influences of the circumstance, right? The influences of these swords. Let's find out who these swords are, because one of them is you. But there's two other swords here that we should kind of take a look at and see what is the circumstance that we're looking at with respect to their motivation. Why are they steering you toward or away from certain things, right? Like, here's a great example. Let's say you have a friend that has a crush on him. They're going to be telling you to, oh yeah, well, yeah, he's not right for you, and right. Or, maybe you've thought about, moving out toward him, or whatever the case may be, which would be difficult because and so people don't want you to leave, and so they're, but they don't say that. They say something, they try to make him look bad, whatever the case. There's always these kind of chatters that we have to overcome. The first card is a Knight of Cup. This is a reliable person emotionally. They don't have a bad mannerism. Wow. They're kind of this person. There's this energy in the Knight of Cup that is the actor of the element. Like, the page, i.e. princess, is responsible for presenting it, like bringing it. Then you have the knight, which is the one that uses it. And so this is a person that is using their emotions, meaning that they have a jovial personality. They have they're kind of like, they seem confident, and are, people look to that person, not necessarily for advice or for motivation, but to listen to, this might be an uncle, a father, a friend. It does not necessarily be a man, not necessarily masculine, that you kind of trust and you have a good energy for. It could be a friend, like a close friend, but the problem is again, that they're one of the things, this is what we're talking about, they're one of the swords. Their intention isn't bad, but there's an emotional selfishness attached to it. And here we have the Nine of Wands. This person is like laying on guilt. The negative Nancy. And they also are, they use codependency as a vehicle. This is the friend that, always has something bad to say about what's going on in your life. Like, you could be like, wow, it's a nice day today. Yeah, it's going to rain later. Yeah, but it's a nice day right now. Like, can we just take a moment to, yeah, but then it's going to rain. How many Jewish mothers does it take to screw in a light bulb? None. I'll just sit here in the dark. Right? So those are the 2 points of chatter that we have going on here. There's this one person that's kind of like your friend, but there's a selfish motivation. And then here you have this other person that's like the guilt one, that's sort of like, you can't leave, or he's not right for you, because if you go with him, then I won't be available for me. You won't be around for me. You get that idea. And then there's you, the internal chatter of, this is bad, this is wrong, this is why I shouldn't do that, this is why that's not going to work, this is why I shouldn't even try. But ultimately, everything that came up here over and over and over again was related to the connection is strong, it's real. but you need to be open to it evolving. All right, now I'm going to drop one more card, and then we're going to call it complete. Okay. And what I'm going to do is, this next card is the action card. What is the next thing that you should be doing? Literally right now, today, tonight, tomorrow. What should you be doing? Okay. You know what? I'm not even going to use this deck for that. I'm going to use the Deviant Moon, which is the deck that I was using for the Random Active Wisdom. Okay, I'll just get this kind of shuffled up a little bit for the next one. Oh, what a great card. The Ten of Pentacles is the last card of the tarot. The World is the last card of the majors. Right. We're in the period of the Ten of Pentacles now. That's the period of time that we're in. Like the actual, like the the Wheel of the Year. That's the period of time that we're in. And what this refers to is the perfected being, right? This is the world is you with all of the nonsense out of the way. It's you with all of the swords corrected, the chatter gone, and your actual will being allowed, being unhindered, unassuaged in its desire to install its will into your heart. Okay? And we see this with the Ace of Cups. This is really that your soul is asking for that to happen. And if it does, the world is your answer. The world is what you get. So now, this as an action card, what this refers to is openness, because as an action card, this is a state of perfection, so any action will damage that perfection. It's kind of like everything is in balance right now, so like it's just be. And what this is referring to, the lesson here as far as the action here, is to enroll this individual in the reality of what we just talked about. Meaning, next time you speak to him, which should be pretty soon, mention, you don't have to mention that you spoke to somebody about it or whatever the case. It's up to you and his relationship, and if you go there or not. If you want to talk about that you spoke to an intuitive, or that you wanted to, you got some guidance. But what you have to do is at least say, hey, listen, the bottom line is you and I both know what the relationship is. And I'm willing to let go of trying to make what used to be. Let's revisit who we even are. Because let's not forget the most important point of all this that I'm always talking about introducing each other to themselves, is the fact that up until this point, right now, this moment, you think you know who you are. You have never been that. You just are pretending to be that. No, don't lie. So am I. This isn't who I am. This is the car I drive. So, the relationship that you got into with Tim was not you and Tim getting into a relationship. It was the character you were playing at the time and the character he was playing at the time getting into a relationship. What you and Tim need to do is to each empty your cups. And instead of trying to fill it with something else, let what you are fill it. And now you're going to re-examine some things, and it's a new relationship altogether. You may even kind of say, you'll eat different foods, you'll drink different types of drink, you'll wear different clothes, you'll maybe change your allegiance to certain teams or certain like really like things that were super important aren't anymore. Things that you didn't even care about become tantamount when you go through that work, because what happens is now two perfect empty people that are now in a place of saying, let's at least revisit who we even think we are. And now you need to give him permission to do the same thing, which includes letting go of everything the two of you did to each other when you were those other people, because you're not those people anymore. In fact, we are new every second. We're deciding who we're going to be every minute, and that decision determines our story that we tell and the way that we interact with each other, right? And so this is an opportunity for you to have this conversation with him and say, listen, I love you and I want us to continue, and I know we're gonna, but here's how we're gonna do it. I want you to meet somebody, and it's the real me. And so I'm sorry about this thing and that thing and this thing, and I want you to recognize that the person I fell in love with is the real you, and this thing on the outside, let's revisit what that is. Teach me who you are now, and let's take this opportunity to actually craft that together. You're very lucky to have that energy. Not every relationship has that, even just sort of as an opportunity, let alone as a foundation, and you do. Okay? Well, originally, yes. But I feel like once you both have successfully are able to do what we're talking about here, the desire to connect will, again, once things are right, there's no stopping it. The desire to connect will not exist because you'll be together. There is no other outcome here. The only question is when. Okay? And so, the work is knowing you, letting him know that that's coming, and that you want to discover that with him, and you need to give him permission to do the same thing. Okay? And if you need help with that, I'm happy to work with you both, and we could do something over like a Zoom or something, and discuss some of the techniques that you can do individually as well as a couple to go through those steps. Okay? And so I'm feeling like that's a good place to stop the reading. Do me a favor, email me or text me at that number your physical address so I can send you your incense, okay? And if you don't send me the address, then I can't send you the incense. But it's and I'm going to intuitively pick the colors and intuitively pick, so on so on. But just send me your address via email or text it to me, and we'll go from there. So, and if you have any other questions, obviously you're welcome to pop in on my stream anytime. I really appreciate the time and you listening, and that's that. And so, again, together, I'm putting it out there. I'm offering you the role of that Three of Pentacle, and to take that step of, So let's go through that. Okay, great. So that said, all I ask is that you like the video and you, consider a comment if you found any value here, and feel free to share your experience if you found it worthy. If you didn't, please don't, and I mean that. I know it sounds like but I mean that. I don't. The whole point here is to make sure that people see the real deal. Thank you so much. No, thank you for listening, participating. This could not have happened without you either. If we connect, this happens. If we don't, this doesn't happen. So, great. That said, then, let's see. Tavon, you're so patient. If you're still around, you are next. Kay, Luana, Sarav, if you're here, everyone just kind of give me a thumb up to let me know you're here. And if you aren't here, then give me 2 thumbs up. I appreciate that. And you know what? I'm going to take away the word amazing. my thoroughness is just due to my to the that I take it seriously, and so I can't. There's no other. It's not. I can't take credit for that. I can't. I can't half-ass it. It's not. I don't have it in me. But I appreciate that. I really do, and it matters because I'm trying. I'm giving this for real, and so that it's recognized really means a lot. So, Uncle Bob, what's happening? Luana's here. Okay, good. So far, Luana. Tavon, if you're here, you're next. Kay, if you're here, you're after Tavon. If neither of you are here, then Luana's up. Okay, there's a very powerful magic that I haven't talked about on the stream too much. I've spoken about it a little bit when about Robert M. Place and his alchemical tarot. It's the magic of alchemy, which is really a distilled down version of everything we're talking about. And one of the most powerful magics. Let me just slip over to the random act of wisdom before we get into our next reading here with Luana. It's looking like. I'm feeling a little silly, so spoiler. Take this with a grain of salt. The powerful magic of the alchemy is the idea of turning one thing into another. And I've been performing that all evening by turning my coffee into something else, which I need to now go give to the universe. So that said, I gotta pee. I'll be right back. And before I move on with the next reading, which it's looking like is Luana, which, is kind of special. Luana has been coming in on the stream here several times, and I don't believe I've read for you yet. And so that's great. And she pops in and listens and gives me feedback, and it's just awesome. And so I really appreciate that. It means a lot. Otherwise, I'm going to leave the list the way it is. And Luana, if you want to, I just need your month and day of birth. Don't need the year. Month and day of birth so we can find your birth card, and then we can continue with the process. And actually, I'm going to close the list officially right now because I want to speak to a couple of things tonight before the stream is over, and specifically the beautiful soul is a very important thing that I want to get to before the stream ends. And so you'll be my last reading for the night, okay? So Luana is my final reading. The list is officially closed. And okay, great. Hello, Lay. Thank you for joining. Okay. Actually, well, the list, the free list just got closed, unfortunately. But donation readings jump. So as soon as I'm done with Luana, you will be next if you wanted to. And the way that this works is basically I do a number of different types of readings. There's virtually no spread I haven't done and have experience in, but there's a couple that I particularly have. And so the 3 card $5 reading is very advanced. 6 of Pentacles. Okay, great. May 6th. Okay, great. May the 4th be with you, and beware the revenge of the 6th. Okay, so. Now I can say that because this is my wand. Notice that it's red for fire, right? So it's not just, a Darth Vader, but it's a, This isn't the one I use for magical work. This is just the one that I use, as for my tarot temple. All right, so let's get that up on the screen. And now let's look at that as well, right? So May 6th, if everyone wants to join us here as well, that's going to be in the orange over there. And that's in the 6 of Pentacles, which is the moon in Taurus. Okay, it's an earth sign. And it's in that transitional period of the Taurus, right? It's not in the beginning, it's not toward the end, it's in the middle portion of Taurus. Moving from the moon, which is kind of a hidden energy, into Saturn, which is a willfully hidden energy. And we'll talk about that. But so let's just set this up really quickly before I step away. Six of the Pentacle. Okay. And pardon my memory, Taurus, right? We're talking about Taurus. We were in May, right? Yeah. Okay, sorry. Okay. So the Hierophant is also relevant. Okay, and just give me a moment to there we go. All right. Perfect. Okay, good. So let's just set up, make sure I have the Christ 6 Pentacle, here, 10 Pentacle. Yep. Okay, yep. Great. Okay. All right, good. So I'm ready here. I just need a couple of minutes to get my head straight, lose a little weight. And I will be right back, okay? And then center, and we can move on with the reading for Luana. I'm excited. I get to read for Luana. It's been a little while. She's been again popping in for a little while now, and it's cool to always make new connections. Okay, so I'll be back in just a couple minutes, and then we'll continue with the reading. Alrighty. So let's oh no, thank you. Okay, so that said, let's begin with just the basic message here. Actually, let's not even do that. Let's start with a random card. This is from the Deviant Moon. It's just a basic message to begin with. It's not related to your reading or anything else. So let's zoom in on the desk. Beautiful. What we have with the Ace of Pentacles is this period of time where you are entering the stage of physical manifestation of the things in your life coming into reality. The Ace is not manifest. That's an important lesson with the Ace, is that it is the seed of the element. It doesn't exist in the world yet. It's brought into the world through the princess or the page, right? That's why you always see the page holding the element out, like, here, take it. It's very similar to the Ace, which shows it coming out as in a cloud, while the page is, here it is, right? And they're in the world as a body holding the element. And so it shows the idea of it being actually in the world. But prior to that, it's in the state of the Ace. And in this particular circumstance, it was the Ace of Pentacle, which is, you know, can be take many forms, all of which though are actually real in the world, and that's the point, is that it's actually real in the world, and that's a beautiful thing. Now there's some other specific dynamics related to that on the tree. The tens are all referring to the bottom of the tree there with that 4-colored circle. The aces are on the top. And imagine this tree, if there were 4 of them connected to each other, the bottommost tree is the tree of physical reality. That is the tree of discs, basically. Right? Okay. So, and that's not a truth, that's a seed. What I just spoke is a seed that can grow into some very serious knowledge. But basically this, the idea of the Ace is telling you that it's the lesson of that to manifest things physically in reality requires you to go through the proper order of operation. You start with the spirit, or the drive, the will, and then bring that into fruition emotionally. You bring that into fruition mentally, and then it comes into the real world. Okay, so now let's talk about your message for the day. Your message for the day here is related to these 2 cards that do not change. They go throughout your life. That's the 6 of Pentacles, which is your birth card, the Deacon, and then the Hierophant, which rules the period of time of the month, right? Of Taurus. And so now what we're talking about here is, we've spoken about the Hierophant at length tonight, but the gist is the worldview, the institutions that form our thinking. And specifically what we're referring to here in the 7 is the idea of, there's many layers to this card, and the outer layer is obvious charity. And there's, these inner layers, right? There's that next inner layer, the inner order of the knowledge is a little different. There's 2 people here, one in the brown, one in the blue. The one in the brown, is receiving the money, and the one in the blue is about to receive it. But notice there's a little red card sticking in his jacket, and he's wearing blue. Now, blue is interesting. Blue was not cheap. The person on the left clearly is wearing ragged clothing, couldn't afford the pretty dyes. The person on the right can. And that red card refers to a theater ticket. Essentially, the lesson here is that they actually have the means, but they're taking anyway. And so there's an idea here of the different kinds and that there's a sort of an inner lesson that you need to kind of give if you're going to give without thinking about that too much, because that can really kind of get in the way. But then there's a third inner sanctum meaning to the six. And the idea of the Six of Pentacles here is the idea of injustice. The person who is giving the money isn't just being gracious. They're aware of the fact that due to the system of the world that we live in, some people are going to be poor, and it's incumbent upon them who have more to give to those who have less. So this is an idea not of charity for the sake of feeling good about yourself or because, it's the right thing to do. It's more of a recognition of an intolerance for injustice and doing what you can to balance those scales. Notice the scales, if you take a ruler, you'll see especially, but it is obvious. The left side's a little bit lower, just a little bit. Actually, it'll be that on the screen, right? And what you're attempting to do in this circumstance is to balance that scale. You're doing your part to make that happen. And now the Hierophant is sometimes to actually work against that in some cases. Because, very often the idea is charity or everyone's welcome only as long as you follow our little circle here, right? The Hierophant, one of the prices of admission is not only paying your dues, i.e. you tithe to the church, you pay your tuition to the school, and so on. You pay your taxes to the government. There's also the idea of, and you follow our laws. What do you mean you don't believe what we believe? Well, then you don't belong here. But this person's acting separately. They're saying, no, I don't like the way things are going, and I have power, and I'm going to use that power to create change in order that the justice is leveled, right? And now the Hermit is the period of time that we're in. That's the general influence of this introspection with the intent of finding that injustice. It's not always obvious, and sometimes if we find ourselves wrapped up in the zeitgeist, i.e. the Hierophant, it's not always easy to see where that lies, like where the injustice actually lies. And sometimes you kind of have to read between the lines and look at who are the people who are pretending that they're in need, that they're victims, and who are the people who are actually in need. Okay, so that's your lesson for right now, Luana. And for the next period of time, up until about the 22nd, when we move into the next phase, and we're out of the Ten of Pentacles, and we move into a period of time of a totally different set of energy here. We're moving into the Two of Swords, we're moving into Libra, we're moving into Autumn. And the Ten of Pentacles is the last card of the tarot. It's the final card of the Pentacles, and the final card of the tree, the final card of the whole ladder, the final card of the whole story. This is the last page. And so person's looking back at all of the different phases that they've been through, the decisions they made, all of the different choices. They look back at when they were a child. They look back at when they were the parent. They look back at all their decisions. And they're either in a state of peace or regret. You don't want to say, I could have done something and I didn't. All of us who have that weighing on us, I have a couple of those, I'm sure you do, we all have that. You don't want to be in that place of saying, I should have. But I was afraid to go against the grain or to look unpopular to a certain group that I profess to be a part of. One good example, full disclosure, I'm a deacon in a Christian church, and one of the reasons that I worship at the church that I do is because they accept gay people. I have a female pastor. It's funny too, because it's an interesting church. A majority of it is either elderly or very heavy on the spectrum and require a lot of personal care, that make a lot of noise during the service, banging, clapping, calling out, because it's just sort of the beauty of their love. And, in a very progressive church in that respect, for me to be sort of like a straight white guy, and, that's, in my mid-40s, is kind of rare in my congregation. And so to me, I went, wait a minute, I'm the only straight white guy in the room. This is my kind of place. Like, this is where I belong. And I'm happy to bring my guidance to the people who have a need. but most churches aren't like that, right? And it's kind of hard when you're looking at a body or somebody to look toward. It's not always easy to trust the religion because they don't always show that tolerance. And it was actually there was a lot of churches that have just gone through that conversation with respect to homosexuality, with respect to identity, and a lot of the ideas that are not everyone accepts nowadays, and that's okay if you don't. But we have to recognize that how we all manifest our personalities most of the time is a lie anyway. What we believe and don't believe can change on a whim, but truth stays with us forever, right? So now I'm going to stop and ask you what you want to read about. Is there a certain direction or question or something that you wanted to look into? Otherwise, what I'm going to do is just kind of like move along and move into the beautiful soul portion, and then close up the reading tonight. Or if there's any clarification either about what I spoke about the current period of time. I mean, I don't recall if there was a specific question. Let me go back in the chat here. Great. Perfect. Great. And, I encourage you, anytime you want to pop in and continue or look into anything else, you just let me know. And also, I encourage highly anyone who's been in here more than once, especially, if you have any ideas, I'm very open to feedback on ways that I can improve this process, and maybe ways that I can improve the flow of the chats or the flow of the information that I'm trying to disseminate, and so feel free to share any ideas that you have as I build the channel here. I want it to be a community of people who are around the right way to do this, and that community requires us all getting together, and so feedback's great. So, let me just grab this book here. I don't know if you guys have read this book. This is a great book. Those are cards. Okay, so let's just get this. Alrighty, so the beautiful soul. I made a decision at one point that I was going to have a segment that I was going to do stuff going on in the world, stuff going on locally, stuff going on in each individual country. I have a very diverse audience with respect internationally as well as culturally. And I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of, look at what's going on in your part of the world. And then I came to the conclusion after researching it, prior to cutting the videos and doing these things, it's all so negative. And so let's just focus on the positive, right? And so one of the ways that I thought would be better to go about that would be to look at particular circumstances whereby people are walking the talk and are connected with the tarot community. And so, and the way that I feel is the best way to go about that is to discuss kind of a really, really interesting subject. Because today's beautiful soul is not a person, and we'll get there. It was Virginia Woolf, I believe, who said, I think it makes God angry when you walk by purple in nature and don't notice it. You know, God, the universe, you created this world that we live in with all of its complexity so that it can be experienced. And now, I wrote something years ago, and it's so profound that it just burned into my brain, and it became a very important part of my thinking. And it's the idea of, I'm a musician, and when I write music, I'm personally just expressing myself to myself. And all it is music. Sounds in a row, expressing my own emotion. But now when I share my music, and somebody is moved by that, it changes. It becomes something else. And what it becomes is art. Art does not exist until the thing that's communicated is taken by somebody else and processed emotionally. And then it becomes art. Prior to that, it's just creative expression. It's just right brain regurgitation in some medium. But once it's taken in by another soul and emotion is raised, something new is born, and that thing that's born is beauty. And beauty doesn't exist prior to that. And what we have here is the Fool, the Seven of Cups, and the Ace of Pentacle. And what this is this carefree point of reception, just taking in its world without definition, without the assumptions that come with our personality and our identity and the world and these things. And it's just taking it in for what it is. And then what we do, because we're all in this state of the Seven of Cups, where there's certain things that we want, and if we don't see it, we make it that. The card here is an imaginary world, and that's actually reality. The reality is our world is imaginary. We are always telling this story. The question is what are we telling? What are we creating? And that's represented by the Ace of Pentacles, which is this opportunity. It's not manifest yet. That's presented by the universe of, here is a means, a vehicle, a system by which you can manifest your will into physical reality. You can make things happen in the real world. And one of the things that you can make is beauty. And so I wanted to just kind of share a couple of images here that I think are relevant to this circumstance. Because what is this flower doing? This flower, and the several that we're going to watch, are examples of the Fool. Just living its life, just being. There's no definition. It just knows that it likes the warmth, and so it points toward the sun. It knows that it likes the water, and so it waits for the rain. But it's not wanting, it's just being. And then we come along. And in that process of coming along, if we're lucky, if we get out of our own way, we can notice it. See it for what it is. This particular image is a poppy that I took in my backyard, and it's alone. There's only the one. In this huge field of green, there's this, and I was out, and I was with Arlo. Arlo's my little guy, and he was out running around doing his little guy thing. And he's orange. He's all brown nose, golden eyes, brown fur, gorgeous brown nails. The pads of his feet are brown. That's funny because I have 3 redheaded daughters. I make redheads, but so you can't not see this burst of orange in the middle of this huge green field, but it's all by itself. And I was moved by that, and I took this picture. And then what happened? It went from being to being beauty. It became beauty because of my communication with it. We connected, we got together. And so beauty is something that is created by us. It does not exist in the world without us, and it is incumbent upon us to create that beauty. And now I want to also look at a couple of other images here. What about this? Is that beautiful? I think it's absolutely gorgeous. This is a sunflower that, I had sunflowers, and it made it through its cycle, and this is it at the end of its cycle. Right? Stunning. It's not your normal idea of beauty, but it's the idea of recognizing the end of the stage, and yet still it's something that is worth experiencing. Now we're going to look at some artwork. This is a piece that I threw together for a friend of mine that it's a fan of tulips. It was a gift for a friend. I love the orange. This is an image of a sunrise. Not a sunset, a sunrise. The name of this picture is the Eastern Star. Now, what does that imply? Well, due to the fact that it's so low in the sky, it implies that it's rising, not setting. If that star is in the east and it's that low, it must be morning. And this is the implication of a new beginning. The darkness that's in the front and in the foreground and in the clouds is going to eventually be overtaken by light. And sunrises, sunsets, of course they're gorgeous. We all love sunrises and sunsets. What about this? This is the dark sun. This is Saturn. This is not your traditional beauty, right? We think of beauty as all the positives, all the goods in the world, but there is beauty in the other side. And we have to be open to all of it. Don't miss the beautiful nuance of our darkness. We need them both. We need them both. The union of darkness and light can create all kinds of emotions of, for instance, pensive, thoughtful. We've all been this person in our lives. We all know this pain. Being in the corner, separate from the world. We don't know how to feel, but we kind of peer out, hoping that somebody will look back, and they don't. And then we have the opportunity to heal from this. And when we do, we're stronger for it, and we can recognize this pain in others, and we can hopefully take our experience and share that so that they can heal from this. And there's a beauty in that. We can't judge where that beauty comes from. It's our job to create it and to share that. Imagine the tree that went through its whole existence. It provided oxygen, it provided shade, it provided a home for the birds, and it made it through its whole life until all the leaves fell and all the branches cracked, and it just is left alone in its space. It's just the tree and the sun. The interesting part about this is that we're all moving toward this, but also at the same time we're already there. We're all alone in our little island, looking out, seeking connection, while at the same time being in a constant state of connection. And there's a beauty in that. And the fact that the connection and that desire is what drives our personality and what creates the lens by which we view the world. But then there's also this aloneness that is separate from that and does not include all that stuff that comes with that, that we can look at the universe through a separate lens that is more true, more right. And when we do that, we see the thing for what it is, and beauty is created. And it is our job. We were created for the purpose of going out and making beauty everywhere we can. Whether it's traditionally pretty, or traditionally ugly, or scary, or painful. We were created to not miss the purple. And when we do, we take this thing that's just being and we allow it to become its perfected form. We participate in that process, which we are always doing. And so your job, your purpose, your why is to not miss the purple. And how dare we deny our Creator when we are given a task? So get out there and make some beauty, because that's what we're here to do. Okay? That's, she said it, right? It can come back. It can. And, you know, it also lives on in those who appreciate it. I have a certain connection to trees, too. I have a couple in particular that were very important to me in my life. The first tree I ever climbed all the way up to the top. There was a tree that I was very close to during high school when I was, you know, sneaking out and smoking weed and being alone in the woods. There was this one that had like these branches that kind of would do this, and there was a spot in between that I could perfectly fit. And I would sleep in that tree doing my thing by myself, and it was a long time ago. It was the mid-90s. When you could kind of get away with that, because when everything wasn't attached to GPS and cameras and not, you know, this biometrics at the high school. I just walked off and did my thing. But that said, you know, it's really, really important. And in fact, it's not important. It is our reason for being. So don't miss that. Now, I did plan on speaking about some things related to a different subject. And I'm not sure if I want to go there. I think I'll save it for another stream. Okay? Because what I was going to be speaking about is essentially related to the cheat sheet decks that kind of help us to go navigate this process, but I don't think so. I think that the energy is good right where it is, and that we're going to save that for tomorrow. So basically what we are going to be talking about, just as a little spoiler, is the idea that a majority of the decks that we see out there are related to the Golden Dawn. And there's various decks within the Golden Dawn system that give us a little bit of a shortcut with respect to this information. It's the idea of the wheel, the tree of life, the rose cross, the Kabbalistic system, all of it combined in a very beautiful, elegant depiction that's built into the cards, so you don't need to reference 14 books and all charts and everything when you're in the process of doing your work, and you just need your mind, heart, and spirit to combine to create this thing that we're talking about. And so we're going to speak about that next time. It's a really great. There's a couple of very specific. If you want sort of like a spoiler, since I didn't get to it in the stream, in the description of this video are links to those decks, and each one of them is good. They're all great for that circumstance. I happen to have a favorite. I wonder if anybody can guess what my favorite deck is with respect to the cheat sheet decks that contain all of the information built into one card, right? Link in the description as well. I don't earn a commission on this deck. It goes directly to the creator and to the people who are making it available to us. The other links are Amazon links, but the one for the Ceremonial Magic is not. That said, I really appreciate everybody who joined the stream tonight and who listened and who stuck around. I genuinely appreciate it. I do. And, you know, all I ask for is an honest ear to hear the information, an open heart to receive it, and a commitment that what I'm presenting you is truthful. And so anyway, thank you so much for everybody who joined and that continues to join this community. I really appreciate it. Anybody who is privy to the incense, please send me your address and I will get it out to you. Otherwise, thank you so much. And I will, the 4 readings for tomorrow or today, the 16th, are up now on the stream if you want to check, or on the channel if you want to check them out. Okay. Thank you, Uncle Noob, for checking in again. I appreciate you popping in again. And if you have any feedback, let me know. I really am open to suggestions of how we can make this community move better, faster. If it takes a long time, then so be it. But I really appreciate everybody. Okay? And so that said, we'll see you next time. And have a great night.